Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Veterans Club, excellent organization, and Jeremy is just such a fine person that really gives his heart and soul to veterans. I mean, any veteran cause. And so the train wreck that happened is that the United States government in the Office of Inspector General basically wanted to pick off a high-profile person and prosecuted him and convicted him of theft, claiming that he was stealing his VA benefits from the government. So part of the Veterans Club, he was a very high profile. I mean, he's been interviewed all over the country, guest speaker, podcasts like this, featured speaker in different organizations, very high profile. And so I believe that this is my opinion, that the Office Inspector General investigator wanted a feather in his cap and wanted to say, I'm going to take down this high profile person.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're live on Worldview Tube and X-Space's simulcast. Well, after that powerful introductory video, you understand, don't you? You understand exactly why this episode is titled Targeted Combat Veteran Criminalized by Our Government. Jeremy Harrell is a disabled combat vet who answered the call to serve our nation with honor. When he came home, he didn't quit. Like all of us, we stay in the fight. He channeled his own pain into founding Veterans Club Incorporated, a nonprofit dedicated to helping his brothers and sisters in arms heal from things like PTSD and the invisible wounds of war. Instead of support from the VA, Jeremy became the target of what looks like, to me, another weaponized government system. The Veterans Affairs Inspector General and the Department of Justice went after this disabled vet for, quote, theft of government benefits, close quote, while he was volunteering full-time to run the very organization helping thousands of other vets, and he wasn't paid for it. And he ended up behind bars. And this is the story of that government overreach, the VA failures, and a combat hero who refused to stay silent. Today we're talking about his case. We're going to talk about his views on prison reform because now he's been there, done that. The fight for real veteran care. And at the end of the show, I want to get Jeremy's take on this wonderful news that we got. We now have alternative therapies like psychedelics that are actually healing trauma thanks to advocates like Jeremy and President Trump's decision last week to make it legal. Jeremy, your resilience in the face of all this is exactly what Truth Thursday is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the Rob Maness Show, combat veteran, founder and former CEO of Veterans Club Incorporated, Jeremy Harrell. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, sir. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. We've got to continue to tell these stories, man. Let's just spin this first segment. You tell my audience what happened to you.
Yeah, so I obviously deployed in Iraq 2003, 2004, come back home, had a lot of stuff that I was dealing with, just like a lot of other veterans who get deployed to combat zones and things like that. And I spent several years trying to figure out what was going on. And then once I felt like I was starting to get a handle on it, I decided that I wanted to help other veterans like me. And in fact, that's what we're always encouraged to do. And I started really what was a private Facebook group. And really the intention of this organization, sir, was just to get 5 or 6 veterans together once a month to connect with our families, to have that same camaraderie we had once we served. And I just didn't think that, taking the uniform off had to stop that. And so obviously there was a big need in the community. it blew up. We become a nationally recognized organization, one of the top 5 fastest growing in the country. Did a lot of stuff, a lot of exposure with the programs we have, especially equine therapy. And what I was figuring out throughout all this is I thought that I had found the cure, right? Because I was spending time with these other veterans who understood exactly what I was suffering with. They didn't look at you funny when you talked about it. And we were able to sit down and we were able to hash out how we navigate this with our families and on a personal level. And just like any other thing, you know, if someone found the cure to cancer, well, then we would be doing that all the time. And so when I felt like I found a cure to this, or at least a way that I could manage it, I didn't want to do anything else. And so, you know, after some push from some mentors of mine, we developed a nonprofit organization and done some fine work, helped thousands. And as it grew, though, and as I become more of a subject matter expert around the country in regards to PTSD, veteran issues, even national security, the more that I talked about that, the more visible I become, the more scrutiny came upon the organization and myself. And when this investigation started, I had no idea that I was being investigated. This agent never did talk to me. He talked to people who weren't even really close to me, but people who knew of me. And I'm sure that was strategic on his part, right? He didn't want the truth. He wanted a narrative. And
Yeah.
so I had just come back from actually seeking treatment down in Emory University at their brain center for PTSD, TBI. I still have to stay in therapy so that I can move forward, right? So I just come back from a 2-week program, and these 2 gentlemen walked in our headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky, and you know, they looked like any other veterans and wanted to talk to me, and we, you know, I love that. We do that all the time, and so I said, sure, we can have a conversation. Well, we go up to my office and we start talking, and I realized very quickly that this wasn't a conversation. This was more of an interrogation. Now, keep in mind, at this time, I never knew who these gentlemen were. They gave me their first name, but didn't tell me their credentials or why they were there. Until eventually I said, hey, this doesn't seem like a conversation that I normally have. Who are you? And then that's when they showed me who they were and showed me their credentials. And basically, they asked me, how do you do all this? How do you run this successful organization and have post-traumatic stress disorder and are considered permanent and totally disabled? And, you know, that's a very broad question. I don't think it was a good one either. And essentially, I said, well, number one, I don't have an intellectual disability. I have the ability to think and to continue to do good despite my disability. But also, this organization is ran by a board of directors, a board of advisors, and thousands of volunteers. Well, they didn't really like that answer. And once I realized it was a criminal matter, then I decided to stop the interview. And that's when he handed over a summons to court for said you're indicted for theft of government funds. And I was shocked, to be honest, sir. I had only a speeding ticket in 2008 until this come about. And so the only thing I knew about being indicted was that our president gets indicted a lot. And that's basically the gist of what I knew. And so as he's walking out of the office, he turns around, he says, by the way, I followed you for a year and a half, and you've done some incredible things for veterans. And I didn't really know how to take that. And he kind of walked out. And then that's what started, you know, the hunt for legal representation. And I remember going to one of my board of advisors' office, actually the gentleman that was in the clip that you played in the beginning of this episode, Lieutenant Colonel retired Carl Truman, who is a disability attorney. I went to him and asked, you know, sir, what is this exactly? And his response, with the tear in his eye, was, this is serious, Jeremy. This is a federal indictment. They want to put you in prison. And I just didn't understand that. I just couldn't wrap my head around how could a person be criminalized for trying to help, you know, his brother and sisters in arms heal and be charged for breaking a rule or have conduct that's not in any regulation within the VA system, right? So essentially, they made this rule up specifically for me, the way that it seems. And so then I found representation, and we decided. It took me a long time to find someone who would go to trial, to be honest. But I finally found a couple of attorneys to go to trial. Before trial, they offered a plea deal, which they typically do. And my response was, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I'm not going to plead to something I didn't do. And so with that, my lawyer tried to resolve it. The prosecutor said, well, I don't have much say over this case. This is up the flagpole. We never did figure out what that meant, what the flagpole meant, but we assumed somewhere at a higher level, maybe in D.C., in that DOJ, and we decided to go to trial. And we went to trial for 5 days with the jury, who, just like most Americans out there today, don't really understand the VA disability process, especially in 5 days.
Yeah.
And so basically they got kind of lost in the sauce there. Yeah. So, and went to trial, and there's a lot of stuff I can break that down for you if you want to, but that's kind of how it all started.
Well, I guess my first question is, what's the charge, the underlying reason for the charge of theft of government funds? I mean, you're a disabled veteran. You're obviously, I can gather without you even saying it, that you're drawing tax-free disability benefits from the VA, like a lot of the rest of us. So what are they hanging their hat on with this? Because I know a lot of people that have up to 100% disability, but they could still do work and even get paid for it. What's the specific thing that people should know about?
Yeah, so their primary theory was, there's two tracks to 100% permanent total disability. One is what they call a scheduler, which is 100% PNT, and the other is what they call individual unemployability. And what that means is if your condition causes you not to be able to maintain substantial gainful employment, then you get paid at the 100% rate. You get the benefits of 100% rate. So I was labeled 70% PTSD with individual unemployability, and this rating was given to me back in 2011, so quite some time ago. And so basically, their theory is if I could run an organization, then I should be able to work a 9 to 5. And basically, the thought is, that I was volunteering too much. The problem with that is they allegedly said that I was running the organization, and in reality, we have a director of operations who actually runs the day-to-day. Basically, I was the face, the story, and I networked and obviously drummed up support, things of that nature, did the public-facing events. But the difference in a traditional 9 to 5 job and what I was doing is there's a thing called controlled environment. And basically, I had my own schedule. If I didn't feel like I could participate that day, I just didn't.
Right.
But it didn't affect my livelihood, right? So if I worked a big employer around here is Ford Motor Company. I couldn't call into Ford Motor Company 4 or 5 times a month and say, this PTSD stuff is really getting to me. I can't sleep, and therefore I would lose my job, right? So with Veterans Club, basically what I was trying to do 2 things. I was trying to help myself heal because it was very therapeutic for me. And in fact, it was encouraged by the psychologist at the Department of Veteran Affairs to participate, to get out and not isolate and get back into the community, things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a common. Look, I've been through that counseling and treatment myself. We have this. We have at least one. Connected service connected disabilities, and that's it. So I've been counseled to do the same thing myself. For many years. I've served on the board for Military Veterans Advocacy, and I still work for anybody that asks me to do it. I do. So, I'm surprised did that come up in court?
It did come up, but what was interesting about trial, sir, is that they were more focused on my title, more focused on the media appearances, more focused on my outreach, and than they were the disability. They, in fact, didn't really deep dive into disability the way that you would assume a disability benefits case would be. I mean, there was very little talk about that. It was mainly highly successful, nonprofit founder, plenty of media interviews, a lot of outreach, all these things that really aren't relevant to the case. It's a terrible precedent to set that one could be disabled and be productive at the same time. I mean, you can do 2 things at one time, right? So that was Yeah, and the other thing about this case that blew my mind is the very same complainant, which was the Department of Veteran Affairs, asked me to be a consultant to their executive leadership team in both of their hospitals in Kentucky
Yeah.
because they said no one bridges the gap between the community and the VA like our organization did.
Hmm.
So I
Well, we got
volunteered to help with that.
Well, let's take a
Yeah,
commercial break, and we'll
yeah.
continue this on the other side of the break, Jeremy, because I think people need to understand that this is not a guy that took the disability, unemployability, and all that, and then went and got a job or even started a business where he was being paid. He was a volunteer of this organization that he established. He just happened to be at the top of it as the top volunteer. We'll be right back with Jeremy Harrell. It's amazing. Truth Thursday.
Well, I feel a lot better now that I've finally been released. You know, I should have been out of there on May 25th at the latest, and unfortunately that didn't work out, but very thankful for the President of the United States, Donald Trump, for his dedication to the reform of the justice system and all he does. You know, what I love about President Trump is he does what he says he's going to do, and we finally have that.
What do you think about just the process we all went through today for you to get out? Because we had a couple hurdles to get through.
I mean, it's a prime example of what President Trump and Director Marshall are trying to fix. This is one of those things. I should have never had a problem leaving that building, and it shouldn't matter who I talk to, especially when you have the director of the BOP himself who gives me permission to speak to you. I don't know what other what they need outside of that, but this is just the bureaucracy and the red tape that it's always been this way. We're going to do it this way that nobody wants to address, but the president and Director Marshall are definitely going to address it. Savannah Chrisley, also, you know, her family, her mom and dad were just pardoned last week, and she's been instrumental in this as well. You know, sharing things, advocating for me, advocating for my family. I just talked to her, and I'm just so thankful for their family as well. I'm glad that their family's wrong has been righted, and I hope that this happens for many more justice-involved families as time goes on in this administration. It's going on, but the reality is this. I got really good as a disabled veteran of helping other disabled veterans, and it was bringing attention to the issues, and I was exposing the issues in hopes in a very professional way to bring about change and to make sure that we're taking care of those who take care of us, both here and across the ocean. And so that is sometimes when you're doing that kind of thing and you're exposing some holes in the system, people don't like that. And I believe that this was an opportunity for people to try to find a loophole and a reason to stifle me, to stop the progress that we've been making. But very thankful for the President of the United States, Donald Trump, for his dedication to reform of the justice system and all he does. You know, what I love about President Trump is he does what he says he's going to do, and we finally have that in office, and I'm thankful. And I'm also thankful for the director of the Bureau of Prisons, William Marshall, for recognizing that this happened and his desire to fix a wrong and make it right on behalf of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. No one should have to be kept longer than they absolutely need to be. I have a family to go home to. I have a wife here. I have things that I do that benefit this community and this state and this country, and I want to get back to that.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and this combat veteran was targeted by the VA itself, targeted by the Veterans Affairs Department Inspector General itself. It simply for volunteering and being highly effective, taking care of other veterans, and was even told by VA personnel it was good for him to do it because of his own disability. Jeremy Harrell, that man right there, is my guest today. Jeremy, we were talking before the break. I want to get to some of the things you said in that video about prison reform, but I want to focus on what you think the true reason they went after you so aggressively.
Well, I think one of the reasons, or several reasons they went after me aggressively is when I had that same question, sir, when I asked around the people who are smarter than me, they said, well, number one is you're not a guy that carries water for anybody. You're unapologetic and you're authentic in what you do, and you're willing to go and do anything that's necessary to create positive change for those people that you may not even know. And I guess, and to do it for $0, there was no personal enrichment for me. The incentive for me was to see people getting their life together. And I guess that's one of the most dangerous things that could ever occur in this country. And it's a really an eye-opening thing, but it's really sad. And every American should be concerned that your goodwill could still get you behind bars and send you to federal prison. And I guess just because of the nature of the thought of doing this, specifically mainly because this is what God calls me to do, that it was going to be such an issue that they needed to stop me and put me in prison. So
That's
I believe
amazing.
I believe it's a culmination
all
of
all of us that work in this space find corrupt people, corrupt processes. We call them out all the time. And I, for the life of me, I'll just say it. You bureaucrats in the VA, how dare you try to shut us up? We're the ones that are, in spite of you, are helping correct the system. I don't care who the secretary is, because there are still resistors right around that secretary today, Doug Collins. He knows it, and I know it. And we need people like you and all of my friends that I've ever worked with the last 12 years since I retired from the military in this space to get this job done, man. I mean, we still have more veterans commit suicide a day than any other category of person inside the United States. And I'm never going to quit. I'm never going to shut up. If I find something corrupt, I'm going to call it out. Come at me, bros. Come on. So
well, sir,
you can tell that I'm passionate about your situation.
No, I appreciate it. And there's a couple things that before we move on, I want to also elaborate on is there, I'm a conservative evangelical Republican in the state of Kentucky, and there were many who were really wanting me to run for state senator. And of course, due to my limitations as a disabled man, it would be very hard for me to do that. But the second thing is I was very critical of President Joe Biden's botched exit from Afghanistan. In fact, I called it the most failed military operation in history. And I'm sure that made me no friends either. But I was, that interview went viral with a few stations, and I guess it really boils down to I was on one hand I was talking about how Trump was doing a lot of good in the VA on reform and choice programs and private care for veterans, and on the other I was criticizing that current president of the United States at the time, and I'm sure that plays a role as well. But a culmination of those things, I believe, is what got me in the crosshairs.
Oh, yeah, because, you have the resistors inside the building or the organization that want to stop things like the Choice Act and have stifled it in the interim. And now he's trying to get it back. And we've got groups like my friend Mark Lucas at Veteran Action that are trying to get the Access Act passed to improve and finally make it true choice and those kind of things. So it's a fight. It's us out here against them in there. And they know it. But you know what? God wins in the end. And we know it. We're going to overcome these people and all these bullies and everything because we're smarter than they are. And we have staying power and persistence. And that's what we're going to do. You were referring to, I think, the First Step Act when you were coming out of prison. I want to give you a chance to talk about that because I thought I'm a criminal justice reform person from a conservative perspective, so I was very pleased when the president signed that and put it into law the first originally because it did the right things, but not too much, But when I met, I was at a meeting where Todd Chrisley and Director Marshall were speaking at a few weeks ago, and I was surprised to find that the bureaucrats inside the Bureau of Prison System, the federal system, are actually ignoring the First Step Act, and they're trying to get that fixed. And I think you were referring to that. What was your experience? Why were you delayed in your release outside of what was supposed to happen?
Yeah. So just to kind of talk about the First Step Act, I
Mhm.
think it's a brilliant act, and I'm so glad that President Trump was able to get that moving in the right direction during his first term, and really it's the reason why I was going to leave in 4 months versus 6 months of my sentence is because of that First Step Act, where you get 10 days for every month that you do, pending you don't have any issues internally, and you're following the rules, and you're taking classes. Um, you have to take certain classes based on the needs, based on your offense, and based on your classification level. So it's a super program. But you're right. The problem is there's a lot of people in these federal prisons who have been working there for many, many, many years, and it's been, for lack of a better word, it's been a very easy job for them with their feet up on a desk. And then when this reform came and the First Step Act was passed, well, then that requires new processes, that requires extra work. And nobody, what I've learned in the Federal Bureau of Prisons at the institution level, nobody wanted to do extra work. And so you would have inmates who weren't getting the time that they should have gotten, or wasn't getting briefed on what classes they should take. In fact, there was very little, even in my own case, there was very little guidance at all.
Mhm.
Really, what they want you to do is you're encouraged to not bother them at all. And one thing that I thought
Oh.
was interesting, sir, is that while you're there, they have the counselor. He works 5 days a week, but there's only 2 days a week for 2 hours that they have what they call open house, where you can go and talk to these folks and ask about your FSA credits and ask about your date to leave and any question really. Outside of that, if you walk up to them, because I made that mistake, I went in that office when it wasn't quote unquote open house, and
Mm.
they asked me why I thought I could do that. Well, I had a question. They asked me for something, I was giving them an answer, but it wasn't on time. So you have those roadblocks.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's a major issue in those prisons. And what happened, the reason why that I was kept longer is when I was to get out of prison to go do home confinement, it wasn't in my judgment to go to a halfway house. I
Mm.
wasn't supposed to do that anyway, but it oftentimes happens. And of course, I have no voice in that system. I'm just a number.
Yeah.
So I did what I was told. I went to a halfway house, and then it started to get to where I was eligible to leave there to go to home confinement. Well, that date came and passed, and I would
Mm.
ask the directors of this halfway house, which is contracted by the Bureau of Prisons, hey, I have this eligibility date. I've called the regional office in Cincinnati. They validated this. When can I go home? And they kind of laugh at you and say, well, there's a lot of paperwork. It doesn't work that way. And they just pretty much sent me on my way.
Mhm.
Well, my wife, who I love dearly, who's been a tremendous fighter in this with me, she put a post out on X, and she tagged Savannah Chrisley, who then got a hold of the director, Billy Marshall, who had just been appointed. This was in May of last year. He had just been
Yeah.
appointed and brought this to his attention. And 9 days later, they come to get me, but they were not going to let me leave. And these are the kind of issues that give the BOP, a bad name, right? Is if someone is fulfilling their obligation
Mhm.
to serve a sentence, they need to be released on time. And so I just, unfortunately, I firsthand had to understand it, but that's what happened. They kept me 9 days longer than they were supposed to, and I probably would have been there even longer. They make money the longer that I'm there. These private organizations that contract with the BOP, so they like federal inmates. They pay more, and so if I
Yeah.
wouldn't have had the intervention, say I didn't have the access I did at that time, who knows how long I would have been there? And that's something that can't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're touching on is this, when you financially incentivize something that works against the way things are supposed to work by policy, the financial incentive is chased for much longer and much more aggressively than doing the right thing. That's what you're describing there. And we got to figure out a way and help Director Marshall and guys like Todd Chrisley and you fix that issue. because that's exactly what's happening. Well, we got to take another break, Jeremy. When we come back, we'll show a little clip from about veterans, the Veterans Club that Jeremy founded and everything. And I want to do a little deep dive into the club itself and what they do, because it's critically important that some veteran may see this clip and it will save their life and prevent them from doing something or give them an avenue to reach out. And it's very, very important why we veterans do the things we do to help each other. And we'll be right back with Jeremy Harrell.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Having nowhere to go is what drove me to God and the Veterans Club and to this place, this equine therapy, because this place is great, man. I can say it saved my life. I know I would be dead right now.
Welcome back to Truth Thursday, and we're talking to the combat veteran that created Veterans Club that gentleman was talking about, saving his life in equine therapy. And Jeremy Harrell has had a weaponized VA Inspector General and Department of Justice used against him, had to go to prison. The story has to be told. Folks, I hope you'll share the show when it gets posted, post-production. Please share it everywhere, multiple times, multiple days, because we have to make sure that the right people see this. It may stop somebody from getting in trouble, but more importantly, it may intercept and disrupt this process that happened to Jeremy. And Jeremy Harrell is with us. Before we dive into Veterans Club a little bit deeper, Jeremy, what, from a prison reform perspective and your experience in prison, do you have any specific reforms that haven't been done yet that you are going to advocate for?
Yeah, when I was there, there was rehabilitation. I think is a word that's used a lot, but I didn't see any opportunities really for anybody to rehabilitate. In fact, what it seemed to me is just a bunch of men warehoused,
Mm-hmm.
separated from their families. But there was, I remember being there, and any kind of programs or classes they had would be interrupted because of lack of funding or because of staffing issues. Staffing issues are a big problem in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. They just don't have enough staff to even run programs. So when that happens, it impacts negatively the inmates there. So there needs to be consistent, real life rehabilitation, and there was a lack of mental health care there. As someone who has been in therapy for a long time due to my service-related disabilities, I remember one of the things I did in Iraq. I worked at enemy prisoner of war camps. So when I went to prison, you can imagine how triggering that was to me. I
Yeah.
saw one psychologist for 5 minutes. He asked me how I was doing. I told him the truth, that I was struggling, that I was having some issues, and this is why. And then 5 minutes later, he dismissed it, told me if I needed anything, I could send an email through our little database thing that we have. And that was the last time I ever seen a psychologist. And not just because I'm a veteran, but other men there. Obviously, there's some mental health challenges with some folks in there. They don't have adequate treatment, whether it's mental or physical, actually. So there's healthcare issues. There's a lot of unaddressed mental health issues that create other problems for other inmates who are trying to do the right thing. And then there's also some of the correctional officers that are there. They have a mentality to continue to make someone pay, and being in prison is a punishment. I don't
Hmm.
think it's beneficial at all to continue to punish while inside. I think it's a time where, according to what they say in court, a time for rehabilitation, a time to grow, and a time to figure out what went wrong and fix it before you leave, and to set you up for success. And I didn't see that, unfortunately. And if I didn't have the support system or the wherewithal that I do because of my previous activity, I probably wouldn't have been able to recover the way that I have. But unfortunately, not everybody has that. And I think we've got to do a better job of doing what we say we do in that realm.
Yeah. So, what level of facility were you in? I mean, you're a nonviolent offender, I assume.
Yes.
A first time offender. What level of facility were you in? What were the people like that were non-veteran types that were in there for other reasons?
Yeah. So I was in a minimum security camp, they call it. It was a satellite camp. It's attached to a low security next door, FCI Ashland. And there's a lot of white collar offenders
Mhm.
um, in those camps, but there's also, I mean, you have anything from lawyers, CEOs to gang members and drug dealers.
Wow.
Um, I mean, I was housed with primarily folks who were gang members and drug dealers because of my age.
Mhm.
The way that they classify you is generally by age, and when you reach the age of 50, there's a different unit for 50 and over
Mhm.
inmates that's are little it's a little less aggressive. Let's just say it that way. But I was 44,
Yeah.
and so I just barely missed the boat. So I was kind of the old man in the young man's dorm, and it was interesting to say the least. But you have all types of offenders there, and what happens is even if someone may have been at the highest level, a USP, a United States Penitentiary, over the course of time, they're able to, if based on their behavior, they're able
Mhm.
to digress to a lower security unit. So you would have some people there that have been in higher security units that just done the right thing and now they're at camp. So, but unfortunately, sometimes the politics of prison follows from these higher institutions and kind of create issue within that unit. But primarily, I didn't, I wasn't exposed to any extreme violence or anything like that.
Mhm.
I kind of stayed to myself. What I did, one of the other things I do is I'm a chaplain with the Billy Graham Foundation. And what we do is we support Samaritan's Purse when they react to these rapid response
Right.
disasters. And so when I got there, some of the inmates already knew my background and asked me if I would, preach on Sunday services and hold Bible studies. So that's basically what I did with my time there and mentor men. Um,
Mhm.
so it's just like anything else. You have people that really shouldn't be there, and then you have
Mhm.
people who obviously should probably be there. So it's kind
Yeah.
of a mix. Yeah,
Yeah, that's great that you were able to do that, though. As
yeah.
a Christian myself, I mean, that would be one of the things that I would be looking for if I was in your situation. Uh,
Yeah, I just didn't want the
worshiping with
situation to.
others.
Yeah, I just didn't want to. My faith is really something that I really latch onto, and just like I told the judge respectfully in my allocution statement during sentencing, I said, Your Honor, my primary focus is to love Jesus with my heart, my mind, and my soul, and secondly, to love my neighbor like myself, and that's the foundation of everything that I do in this life. And I wasn't going to let my circumstances in that environment change who I was. I think the worst thing you can do when you get involved in that is to lose your identity. And so I wanted to make sure that I was staying true to my faith and staying true to who Jeremy Harrell really is,
Absolutely.
minus this erroneous verdict.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that led to you creating Veterans Club, right? What's the
Yeah, yeah,
story
yeah,
behind that?
yeah. So like I said earlier, it really was just an idea on a napkin, and it
Mhm.
started out as a Facebook group. And again, I just wanted to have a place where veterans could go to communicate with each other, no matter their
Mhm.
distance, and it just blew up. And we ended up, creating 5 nationally recognized programs and having 200 plus events a year. There's only 365 days, but my theory was I want veterans and their families to have something to do on a Tuesday evening.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and again, we support families as well. So anything the veteran could do, the family was invited. And our most known program is the equine therapy program. And the reason why that's so significant is because I had been through that. That was something that really helped me in my healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I didn't really even touch a horse. Some people have a hard time understanding this. I'm from Kentucky, but I didn't touch a horse till I went to Kansas. And I went through I went through a similar program in Kansas, and I come back home, and then the next week, the gentleman that ran that program out there said, "Hey, can you come back? Megan Kelly, she's going to come and highlight our program, and I'd like for you to speak about your experience."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "No, I think you're crazy because I don't know much about horses, but veterans will do anything for each other." So
Yeah.
so I went back, and during that when that segment aired, at the end, she made a statement, Megan Kelly, that I was going to do this in my home state of Kentucky. And so I thought, well, I looked at my wife and said we had better get started. And so that's
Yeah.
another kind of nudge that we had. But yeah, so we do that. We have a resilient mind program where we partner with Russell Wilson, the NFL quarterback, and his brother
Mm-hmm.
to help veterans who have been held down by their disability but have overcame enough to where they want to go back to attaining their goals, whatever it is, to be a business owner, to be a better dad, better mom, whatever it is. We give them the tools to succeed that way, and we follow through with them to make sure that they get connected to good mentors to help them be successful. And of course, suicide prevention training is very big. And
Mm-hmm.
what's funny about this OK, sir, is we partnered so heavily with VA that they would have mental health graduations, and they would have staff retreats at our farm. I would put all their mental health provider and program managers through the same program that I put veterans through, and all the while they were investigating me, but none of those psychologists that were out there ever looked at me and said they thought I was better because of this. So I thought that was interesting. But we try to do anything we can to enhance the quality of life for those who have served this country, and there's nothing that we won't do to do it.
Yeah. So what you're out of prison now, and you list yourself as the former CEO of Veterans Club. I gather that's because they've legally bound you because they put you in prison for it, so that you can't have a title or those kind of things. But it's my assumption that you're still a strong volunteer, both for that organization and others to help people, right? Is that right?
Yes, sir. So the reason why you see the former CEO is because when I was in
Jeremy, I think we lost your audio.
can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, so when I was on pretrial, they wouldn't let me go around the organization. That was one of their biggest demands, is that I wouldn't keep doing what I was doing. And
Mm.
so our director of operations, he held down the fort. He kept this thing running, which really just proves that it was the Jeremy Harrell show. But he kept it running all the way throughout my prison sentence and this legal battle, and still is today. So I thought he earned the title of
Yeah.
director, and my role now is more an advisory role. And two reasons for that. Number one is because obviously he earned the spot to continue to run this, and I do believe in term limits. But also I have other opportunities that have arisen based on my experience. I'm doing a lot of advisory, a lot of getting on boards and helping
Mm-hmm.
other organizations, whether it's justice impacted or veterans. And so that's kind of taking a lot of my time now. And of course, I'm still fighting this battle every day. I actually have oral arguments at the U.S. Custom, or I'm sorry, U.S. I always say that U.S. Court of Appeals up in Detroit next Wednesday for part of this case. So I'm still fighting this case actively. I've never stopped doing that. So and I'm still supporting the organization, helping make sure it stays in the right direction. And of course, I'm enjoying some of the programs they have. That's another
Mm-hmm.
thing. As a veteran myself, oftentimes I was at the organization not as an official business person, but I was there enjoying the programs that
Yeah.
we offered, which they wrapped up that I was volunteering 60 hours a week, because I might have been at that building for 60 hours a week, but they left
Mm-hmm.
out the part that it's a community center. It's a place where veterans can come
Yeah.
and go all hours of the day, hang out, eat lunch, and we would have different organizations come in and offer different programs. And every now and then myself, I'd like to be a part of that. So yeah, I still go back, and I'm still very involved. It's just more at a distance now.
Now, does the club have horses or access to horses close by now in Kentucky?
Yeah, so we operate out of 3 different farms.
Okay.
Um, one of the farms is near Lexington in a place called Paris, Kentucky. There's 130 horses on that horse
Mhm.
farm. It's a rescue, and we have veterans work with those horses. Then there's one close to me in Taylorsville. It's a smaller farm. It's our primary place where we do the equine therapy. It's 10 acres there, 7 horses, and then we have the Kentucky Humane Society. Whenever they rescue neglected and abused horses, we have veterans come out and try to help them get socialized so that they can become adopted. So you have a traumatized horse and unfortunately a traumatized hero, but they get together and they think they're helping the horse, but they're helping themselves at the same time. It's a beautiful program,
That's
and
great.
so we
Yeah.
operate out of 3 different farms.
That's awesome. We got to take our last break. When we come back, we'll see a clip from the president talking about the psychedelics approval and continue our conversation with Jeremy Harrell, this combat veteran that has been abused by a weaponized system. And we need to help him through his appeal process and help anybody else. If you're out there, reach out to weaponizationwatch.com and let them know what your story is. We'll be right back on the Rob Maness Show.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
Today I'm pleased to announce historic reforms to dramatically accelerate access to new medical research and treatments based on psychedelic drugs. In many cases, these experimental treatments have shown life-changing potential for those suffering from severe mental illness and depression, including our cherished veterans. Our veterans are having a tremendous hard time. You know, the suicide rate, we have it down a little bit, but they are having a hard time. And I got a call from a number of people, including the great Joe Rogan. And he said, we have to do something about this. And I looked into it. I called Bobby, I called Oz, I called Marty and Jay. And it was uniform support. And I said, so why would we wait 3 or 4 years to get it done? Or 10 years, frankly. Let's get it done immediately, and that's what happened. This has probably never been anything happened so quickly. Everybody is so strongly in favor of this. It's for a lot of people, but it's for our military in particular. The suicide epidemic among veterans is a national tragedy. Since 9/11, we've lost over 21 times more veteran lives to suicide than on the battlefield. So we lose, think of that, 21 times more. And today we're bringing them new hope. I think you're going to see a big difference and a big reduction in that number.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. And my guest today is combat veteran, U.S. Army soldier Jeremy Harrell, who is a victim of a weaponized Inspector General's office and Department of Justice and the IG being out of the Veterans Affairs Department itself. We've been talking about his case and his story, which is on an active appeal, by the way. And we've talked about his organization, his nonprofit that helps veterans, the Veterans Club, especially through equine therapy. And Jeremy, I wanted to give us an opportunity to chat about the psychedelics and some other things. I didn't realize that you were a combined PTSD, TBI patient. Have you had access through the VA for hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HBOT therapy? Because that's one of the issues we've been pushing too, along with psychedelics, to get approved.
Yeah, you know, I've had that therapy, but not through the VA. I have never. This was the first I'm learning that they even consider that. I haven't never been offered through the VA, but I have done 40 treatments in the past, and I thought it was helpful. And it was through Mark Lee, his mother's foundation. Mark Lee was a Navy SEAL that was killed in Iraq, one of the first. And so she provides that for veterans, but it is a very good program, and I hope that that the VA talks about it more, because I know there's a lot of veterans who would like to do that, but they can't, for whatever reason, they have a hard time getting access to it.
Yeah, the organization I was on the board for, Military Veterans Advocacy, they've been pushing a piece of legislation to trying to get it passed for some years now, because the same feedback I just heard from you, we not only hear it, but we've witnessed it, especially for PTSD, TBI injury combined. It's nearly miraculous. Much the same way the stories you hear about the psychedelics. I don't know if you ever used that. I have not used it, but I have spoken to probably thousands of veterans that have advocated for this. And this is a big breakthrough that the president, thanks to Joe Rogan, I guess, was able to get this approved. Your thoughts?
Yes, this is historic. I think this is incredible that the president was able to get this through, and is opening up that opportunity for treatment, because many veterans don't respond to traditional treatments, and frankly, a lot of veterans I know, we don't want to be pumped with pharmaceuticals for the rest of our lives, and some people don't respond to them. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's helping one thing temporarily, but it's creating new problems with your organs and things like quality of life and things like that. So when I heard about this, I was ecstatic. I think this will be the breakthrough that we need, and I haven't experienced it yet. I have been researching organizations to go and figure out how to do that once these restrictions on my life are my restrictions to travel are lifted. I will definitely be able to go and see this for myself. And actually, Brian Hubbard, who is real big behind the Ibogaine part of that, he's actually a Kentuckian, so he's been talking about this around here for a very long time. But I think it's wonderful. I think there's going to be a lot of, here's the thing: the pharmaceuticals, it's temporary relief. You're focusing on symptoms. We need something for the cure, right? And so I think this might be the closest thing we have for it.
Yeah, it's never made any sense to me that I should take a medicine to help me with PTSD that says right on the bottle, every single one of them do, that this could increase the risk of suicide, self-harm, or harm to others. We got a question in the live audience. Let's go ahead and take that before we get to the end of the show. Go ahead, Shell.
Yes, sir. I was wondering, how has this lawfare affected your family, sir? And you're still going through it. And are there any ways that our audience can help you financially? Are there any links? Can we find that on your profile? And how can we help you, sir?
Yes. Well, first of all, I appreciate this question, and it's been very difficult for my family in a lot of ways. In fact, my wife is a therapist. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She provides therapy and addiction recovery. It's been very difficult for her and her ethics and what she's learned and how they've used that against me throughout this process. But it's impacted my children as well. This was a very publicized case, and my children walked on the campus of University of Kentucky and other places and had to answer questions about this that were unfavorable at times. And so it's been really hard on them. Luckily, they're resilient. I like to think I had something to do with that. But yeah, as far as helping out, here's what's happened financially for me is the VA, whatever benefit I get, they offset that every month. I never see $1 of that. And I probably won't until they say I pay $200,000 back. And so technically I don't really have any income at this point. And so, luckily we have people like, you who are asking the question, who want to be supportive to help. And that's been a blessing. In order to do that, we don't have a link per se, but you could obviously reach out to me on an email, and we can figure that out. My email address, you can send it to Jeremy Harrell 81 at yahoo.com, and I'll connect with you and we can figure that out. But my family's it's been devastating for them, but they're starting to get their feet back under them. My daughter's getting ready to get married. I'm happy about that. And we're just going to keep moving. I'm going to keep fighting, and we're going to eventually, make a difference. Not just for me. This is bigger than me. This is about every other veteran that they may do this to that comes after me. If they set precedent with this case, well, that opens the gate for them, and that's why I've been fighting so hard. I wanted to stop fighting a long time ago, to be honest. It's very difficult when it's you against the United States of America. But because I said I would advocate regardless of the cost, and I promised these veterans in this country, all 19 million of them, I'm going to keep fighting and do the best I can to make sure this doesn't happen twice.
And I guarantee you, they're all appreciative of that, because I mean, you're not that unique of a case, to be honest with you. I'm guessing, because I hear about things, not exact like this case, but I hear about things all the time, and the weaponization of veterans having the system turned against them. So you have no income?
I have none. And here's the deal: the VA thinks so. The way that they go back to what they think I owe them. Now, keep in mind, these are benefits based on the sacrifices of my mind and body. These aren't wages that they're taking, right? But they're going back. They say it goes back to a time where I signed a document with my initials on a DocuSign when we and other board members started the nonprofit. They say that's the time where I become employable because I signed JH in a line and sent it on my computer, which I just think is asinine. And I just think they went back to that time so they can build a case so it would be a felony, so that it would be a bigger case for them. But in reality, that's what they say. They say I owe $207,000, and so any disability benefit that I get now, or any increase ever happened, and they did actually increase my disability right when I got out of prison a little bit, which I thought was unique. But they take 100% of that on an offset, so I never see that. And right now, because I'm still technically on supervised release until June, it makes it very difficult to do anything else. And the reality, sir, is you would think, well, it's time for me to start kind of finding a typical job. But the whole point of this is there are many people, 51 over the course of 4 years, who said we don't think Jeremy could do that. He couldn't do a traditional 9 to 5. So I'm kind of stuck in a hard place there, right? So we're trying to figure that out as we speak.
Based on your situation, you can't be employed in
right.
a regular job either, because they'll send you to jail again, right?
Well, so what they did is they removed they kept my percentage. They removed the individual unemployability marker off.
Okay.
Saying that now I'm 70%, which is 80% now, but and I'm still trying to file other claims.
Yeah.
But the point is they put me in a tough position. You would think that they would have some level of maybe give me half of the benefit or something, but that hasn't been the case. They're very aggressively pursuing me. In fact, that's what this thing is about in Detroit next week. It's about forfeiture. Not only do they want restitution, but they want forfeiture from me. They want money from me that they think I would have benefited from, and that could potentially take my house.
Oh, really?
And
Civil
everything else
asset
that I own.
forfeiture too, huh? Wow.
That's what they're trying to do, and that's what we're fighting against next week. So that just taking the disability wasn't enough for them.
Unbelievable.
And so that's how there's a personal tinge to it. I know I met many men in prison who owe millions of dollars in restitution, and many of those men haven't paid since they left the halfway house, and nobody's bothered them.
Mm-hmm.
But for $200,000, they've been actively aggressive to me. In fact, when I went to Atlanta for a treatment program for 3 months, they emptied our bank accounts. Not just my bank account, but my wife's bank account, because we have a joint account, which I didn't receive any money while incarcerated, so that was really all her money. So these are the things that they're doing, and their aggressive pursuit to make me pay for helping people, for volunteering, for trying to make the veteran community a safer and stronger place.
Unbelievable. So I got about a minute left. Talk about your appeal. Where's that in the process? What are your grounds, if you can talk about it? What do you think might see from an outcome on it?
Yeah. So as for a direct appeal on my conviction, that happened while I was incarcerated, and funny enough, usually that can sometimes take years. Well, they come back in 3 weeks with a copy and pasted from the government reason why they were going to affirm the conviction. And a couple of those judges, I believe, may have been Obama appointees. But so that direct appeal is off the table. This is specifically for the forfeiture allegation. And there's some constitutional issues there, and currently working with other